everyone back to Beat the Game. My name's Steve, and today we're going to take a different approach to the character spotlight videos that we've been producing. And I think today we're going to be just talking about the hero pack as is in focus and how to best maximize the efficiency of that hero pack. And then we'll do the character spotlight, and then we'll do it in every effect, in every aspect, in a different video, just to keep the videos a little bit shorter, because I don't think everyone wants to watch me talk about cards for 2 hours. I think that gets a little long. So that's something I've learned thanks to the feedback. So we're going to try to do this a little bit more focused on just our hero card. All right, so let's look at the Quicksilver, guys. Again, if you like my channel, please share, like, subscribe, and then let's dive into the man in blue, which I am rocking his colors today. Here we go. So we've had our first game. We actually had 3 games with Mr. Quicksilver today. We lost 2 of them, and we won our 3rd one against Expert Claw and the Masters of Evil. Very good things. We learned a lot of good combinations, a lot of good cards, how to play this character, what synergizes, and what are things that we have to kind of focus on, and really just trying to find the right timing to do these special events. All right, so first of all right, Pietro Maximoff. He has a hand size of 6, hit points of 9. Again, the 9 health characters. Those are always like, oh, 9. That's so low. But I think he's fine at 9, especially with all the abilities that he actually has in hero form. Pretty awesome. All right, so he has a recovery of 3, which is kind of standard. He is a civilian. Well, that's actually pretty cool. That is the first time. I think the first civilian we see. Yeah, I think that is. Yeah, I think it's the first character we've seen. Soldier. We saw Spy. We saw Shield. I would have to look at all the other heroes, but oh no, I think no, that's the second civilian. I think Ant-Man. If I look at, you know what? I'm not gonna look at Ant-Man, but yeah, civilian. I don't think there's that too many. Yeah, Ant-Man is a civilian, and I think Wasp is a genius. So I like these different little titles. Like, yeah, he's chill. He's just a regular old person. He's a person on the street. All right, and then he has a superpowered siblings. So there's an action here. Discard 2 cards from your hand, and then draw 2 cards, 3 cards instead if Wanda is in play. Limit once per phase. Now, one thing that we have to talk about here is that superpowered siblings ability. So I don't know if it's going to stay like this, but I think for now, we are looking for the identity. And one of the things that we do notice is that if you are playing solo, and this is where I think the FFG needs to kind of clarify this. Is she considered Wanda Maximoff as well as Scarlet Witch on this card? And right now, I don't think it is. All right. So I think from what we have right now, I think we can only see Scarlet Witch. That means we're only going to be able to use this ability with the bonus if somebody else is actually playing Scarlet Witch. If not, but it's still it's kind of like a mulligan. But to get that extra bonus card, I think we need both characters in play. All right, so first things first. Yeah, so discard 2 cards from your hand, draw 2 cards. It's a pretty good ability. Like I said, if you're not really happy with your mulligan, it lets you dive 2 cards in deeper, which I think is pretty sweet. And then when we flip to, I should have done that faster. And when we flip to Quicksilver, 1 thwart, 1 attack, 1 defense, super speed, response. Remember, when does the response happen? After something happens. So response after you use one of Quicksilver's basic powers, thwart, attack, or defense. And that is also, remember, it's only a basic power. So if you use an event that says attack, it does not ready Quicksilver. Sometimes just if you, that could be a little confusing. Oh, but it's an attack. But yes, but it's not a basic attack. So it has to do is basic stuff. And then ready him limit once per phase. So that means per phase, every phase, there's 2 phases. There's the player phase and the villain phase. And then if it says max once per round, If this was roided once per round, that means, you know, if we do it in our turn, we can't do it during the villain's turn. But since it's once per phase, that gives us a lot of opportunities here to do something in the villain's turn as well. So his stats are okay, you know, a hand size of 5, you know, pretty standard. So he's kind of like a little nuisance, 1/1/1, you know. We haven't seen stats that low since Ms. Marvel. So so people might be like, oh, is he better than Ms. Marvel? He's just, you know, it's different. But again, as Ms. Marvel, you don't really want to use her basic powers. Quicksilver, it's all about his basic powers. All right, so let's look at the cards in his kit that define this character and make him super awesome. All right, so the first card we're going to talk about is a card that often you're going to want to keep in your hand, but if you're playing and this is your first turn, don't be afraid to mulligan these. These are great, always be running, are great cards in the mid game. In the early game, don't hold on to this. It's not worth it because, again, you have a thwart of 1, an attack of 1, and a defense of 1. Okay, so you get to do 1 more. Unless you get to remove like a side scheme or something and you absolutely need it, then keep the 1, or else this is a card that you should mulligan. But it is always really, really good because it only costs 1 and it says Ready Quicksilver. So that means if you are exhausted or if you are stunned, you can get rid of your stun and then use your Always Be Running and then just ready up and then have those 2 actions again. Okay, because this does not count as his super speed ability. So that's very important to know. And there's 4 of these cards in the deck, which means you want to be ready in Quicksilver as many times as possible. So that is a very cool card. The other great card in his signature kit that is very thematic to the character is a cost of 2. It is an event that says double time. Hero action, choose 2 of the following. You may choose the same option twice. So this is very, very good. I've used that card, especially against my first game with Claw. And I had options to keep these Always Be Running, but to find a double team against Claw with the 2 side schemes in solo anyway at 3 and at 3, well, this was perfect because I got to play my double time, remove 2 threat, and then thwart for 1, and on my turn 1 for 2 resources, I got rid of 2 side schemes. So that was just super good. So double time, very good. It's a little expensive. It's one of the cards I wasn't sure I was gonna like at first. I'm like, well, why would I want to just do this? It makes a lot of sense in a lot of situations. And it is the best part, it's not an attack and it's not a thwart event. So even if you are confused or even if you are stunned, you can still perform this because it is a superpower, not a action like an attack or a thwart. So that is extremely, extremely good and thematic as well. Nothing can stop this speedster. So far we have 6 event cards in his deck. That's a lot. 6 event cards. We're getting up there. And that's not all. Let's look at another super cool card in his kit that is also an event. So now we're at 7 event cards. And it's called Speed Cyclone. So the X here, what does the X mean? Well, it means I can discard 1 card, I can discard 2 cards, discard 3 cards, or pay 3 resources. And then X, stun X enemies. So stun 3 enemies, stun 2 enemies, stun 4 enemies. I could stun 8 enemies if I had 8 cards. All right, so that is super, super cool. Again, a very thematic to Quicksilver. He's so fast, he messes everyone up. And I would like if it would have been a confuse, but I think the Speed Cyclone stunning has the same really good effect. Only way this card is better is if it says stun or confused an enemy, or like one or the other. I think that would be even better because then you could kind of cheat it to go into alter ego and all that. But I think it's still a very, very cool card. I really like it. So that is our 7th event, and we're not done. We have more event cards coming, and then these are the last 2 events. And this, again, super thematic. So Quicksilver is charged up. Super cheap cards. If you look at the card kit, Very, very inexpensive, all right? If we look back at the Cyclone here for X, so it means for 1 resource, I can stun the boss. That is so good. Stunning the boss for 1 resource, that saves you an attack. For me, it's really good. And then look at this. And again, this is a card that you will mulligan in the beginning game if you don't have any use for it. Unless, you know, this actually would have been good, like again against Claw with those 2 side schemes at 3. Playing that maximum velocity gives me my 3 thwart that I need to get rid of the 2 side schemes. So I think that is a very, very cool card. But again, it's max once per phase, and you get 2 thwart, 2 attack, 2 defense until the end of the round. So this is why it is such a good card. So my defensive 1 is going to stay +2 until the end of the round. So in the villain phase, my base defense is still 3. During my attack, my phase, the player phase, I'm going to have 3 thwart, 3 attack. But this is my defense phase, and this still affects it. All right, so that is super good again. So this again is a superpower event. So we are at 9 events. So 9 events, we're very close to Hawkeye with his 10 event arrows. 10 event arrows. So this is a character that focuses a lot on his events. So what they did here in his kit is they complemented that really, really well by placing a lot of permanents. And that is something that I emphasize a lot in my videos. Playing event-driven characters, you want to thin out your deck to seed those events as often as possible. So I think they did a really, really good job here in his kit to really limit the number of other events in his card, in his hero kit. All right, so then let's look at some of these signature cards that are really good. You know what? He has all these powers, and what can we do with them? All right. So obviously, if he's a 1/1/1, it's not bad. But what happens when we add +1, +1, +1? Then that's Captain America good. All right. So then he becomes a 2/2/2. Once he has all his 3 upgrades. So those are 3 really, really important upgrades. And this is why it's pretty cool, because if you're putting him in protection, great, he can have a defense of 3 with the armored vest. If you're putting him in aggression with the the combat training, he has 3 attack. If you're putting him in justice, he has 3 thwart. 3 thwart characters are very, very rare. Very, very rare. So once you have these characters that can thwart for 3 or attack for 3, that's Hulk level, you know? So that's very, very good. So those 2 cost upgrades are definitely cards you want to try to find and put into play. These 3 cards are definitely priority number 2. Why priority? What does that mean, priority number 2? What are your priority number 1s? Well, let's look at these cards. So again, +1 defense, +1 attack, +1 thwart. This is your second priority. Your first priority is going to be the next 2 cards I'm going to show. The first one is pretty cheap, and this is an alter ego card. Serval Industries, a 1-cost support. Alter ego action, exhaust Serval Industries, and then you shuffle 2 Quicksilver cards from your discard into your deck. Now, what is very, very good about this is, you know, these cards that you mulligan, those always be running, and those high velocities and maximum velocity, and what are the other ones? The Sky Cyclone, maximum velocity, speed cyclone, always be running, double team. Those cards that you discarded, well, Serval Industries, you go to alter ego and you just put them back into your deck. So what's going to happen is, if you end the turn in alter ego, and then when you start your turn in alter ego, you're putting 4 of his signature cards back into the pool, into your deck, which means you have more chances of finding these events. Again, something I've mentioned a lot. Any type of recursion mechanic is super, super powerful. So you want to be using these type of events, these type of mechanics. So once you have that Serval Industries, and if you see that you have the threat under control in the scenario you're playing, either in solo or in multiplayer, if the threat is under control, do not hesitate to flip down. Staying in hero form is okay, but trust me, taking advantage of the larger hand size, getting also the better cards back into your deck. And this is another great example that fits really well with his super powered siblings mechanic. So these two cards synergize very well. All right. Oh, I have these two always be runnings. All right. You know what? There's nothing really on the board that I need to take care of if it's just doing a couple more damage. Let me try to get rid of those. Dig for my event, like my upgrade cards. And then, you know, and then you shuffle those and then you draw. So what you do is you put those in, you know, you discard those two, always be running. And then you use his ability, draw two cards. Use Serval Industries, throw them back in the deck. So when you do flip back to hero form, and when you're in hero form and draw your next hand, you have those always be runnings while you're in hero form and not when you're in alter ego form. So I don't know if you see what where I'm going at with this, but hopefully yes. So this is priority. This is a priority number 1, and the other priority number 1 in your deck is this 3-cost upgrade. Now it's a little bit more. Heavy on the expense, but oh my gosh, is this good? So friction resistance. It is a condition superpower hero response. Very important. Hero response. After you ready Quicksilver, ready this card. All right. And it is a resource, exhaust friction resistance to generate a physical resource. Okay, so I'm trying to understand, Steve, what does that mean? So basically, what you want to be doing with this card is use the resource, use an ability of Quicksilver, use super speed, ready, and ready. Then what you want to do, you want to save this one. You want to use your ability again. Then you want to use your friction resistance to play always be running. That readies him. That readies friction resistance. You can spend this again to play something else. Now, if you want to see a little bit more on that mechanic, take a look at my first game playing Pietro. You will understand because I'm using this like a beast. I'm like, okay, I'm looking at my hand size. I have this. I have all these low-cost cards that I can play. All right, once this is on the table, this becomes a very good money sink to just put permanents on the table, pay for events, ready up. This is a priority 1 card. All right, this is a priority number 1 as well with Serval Industries. And then finally, the last card in his 15 hero cut is Scarlet Witch. Now, Scarlet Witch is you know what, she's okay. It is, as far as signature allies go, it is a little underwhelming. She is cost of 3, 1/1 with 3 health. Interrupt when you use one of her basic powers, discard the top card of the encounter deck, and then for each boost icon, add something to that basic power. So if you get a boost of 3, she can thwart for 4 or attack for 4. If you get a boost of 0 or the star icon, that's 0. So it's very into the character, which is very thematic, which is chaos. You know, so you never know what you're gonna get. I don't mind this. I think the only reason I play Scarlet Witch is to get that team up card up and available that cancels a treachery. And then we'll talk about that one in a bit. All right, so again, Scarlet Witch, not my favorite ally, but she's okay. You know, as far as allies go, it's, you know, it's very, very low on the on my priority list. So of getting her out. But she is, you know, once you're in the mid game and you know you still haven't seen that Shadow of the Past and you have that card in your hand, you know, you're once you have that, what's it called, the chaos thing, I forget what the name of the card is. I forget what the name of the card is. It's the Order and Chaos. There you go. So once you have that card in, you're very happy to have that, and you're actually happy to have her there to cancel the Shadow of the Past or something really, really nasty. All right. So now let's look at what Pietro, you know, is going to bring in the protection card pool. So before we end, I'm trying to think if there's anything I forget about how this guy works. It's pretty simple. This is very hero driven. You want to use his basic abilities as much as possible. All right, so that is his main focus. Now let's look at some of the events that are presented in the protection build. So we're offered 2 really cool events here, and we're going to talk about Sidestep first. Now, Sidestep is a 1-cost event. Hero Interrupt. Defense. Now, again, this is very important. I'm going to explain. Defense does not mean you have to exhaust your character to defend. The way it is worded here, it is still a defensive card without having to defend. And we'll see it here because the counter example is on the Never Back Down. So, when can I play Sidestep? All right, it says when you would take any amount of damage. It says when you would take any amount of damage, okay? Prevent 3 of that damage. And if you paid for this card using a lightning resource, deal 1 damage to an enemy. Now, I know there's been some FFG ruling changes, and some say it's from an attack. But I think it says when you would take any amount of damage, prevent 3 of that damage. It doesn't specify from an attack. So I think I'm still against that ruling. I think it's still it's too confusing. If it's indirect damage, it's still damage, and the specify says when you would take any amount of damage. All right, but it is a hero interrupt. You can prevent 3 of that damage, so that is very cool. Most of the times you're going to be using this against an attack card, so you know it's kind of a moot point. But Sidestep, and if you paid with this with a lightning resource, deal 1 damage to an enemy. So that is pretty cool because that 1 damage bypasses guards and things like that. So it's a very, very cool card. Again, it's a protection card, and it's ways to avoid damage, which is exactly what protection wants to do. I think it's a strong card in a lot of deck builds where you want to take almost no damage. I'm super excited about this card in my Iron Man no damage deck. So that is something I'm really, really liking. I think I like it better than the Expert Defense. All right, then let's see the next card that we're bringing. It's called Never Back Down, another 1-cost event. 1-cost event, Never Back Down, Hero Interrupt, Defense. Now look how this one is worded. When you defend against an attack. So as soon as you decide that you want to defend against the enemy attack, this is when your opportunity is to play this card. You cannot do it after the villain reveals his boost card. You can do that with this card, with the Sidestep. You can do that after the villain reveals his boost cards. You can play Sidestep. But if you want to play Never Back Down, you have to do it before, as the villain initiates an attack, as you declare your block. I'm going to defend, and I'm going to add 2 to my defense, and which is amazing because you get +2 defense, and if you take no damage, stun the attacking enemy. Now, which is really cool is we have a card called Friction Resistance. So this is very, very cool because with Quicksilver, it means you can actually use this card in the villain phase. So you use 1, defend, add your 2, ready Quicksilver, and then ready this. So that is a very cool combo. So friction, defend, spend, rise up, ready, and then you've got your +2 defense. And then if you take no damage, stun the enemy, which I think is very, very cool, especially with these 2 cards combined. You can absorb like a big hit. So that's a minimum of 6 damage. And there's not a lot of villains that can actually do 6 damage. So that is basically another way to stun while defending. So as much as I love tackle and that 3-cost tackle, I love this Never Back Down. I think it's going to be hard for me to decide if I put these Never Back Downs or if I put the tackles in my decks now. So I think this is going to be a very, very cool card. And the best part about his deck is they actually give you a really cool resource generator, and this makes me very, very happy. any type of card that generates resources for anything is definitely an auto include. And what I love about this is Nerves of Steel. It's the 2-cost upgrade that you can play under any player's control. So that for me is great, especially in a pre-constructed, when you want to play this with multiple people. It's not just for you. You can actually give those to other people. They might not use it as much, but the fact that they have a free resource for defensive events is not bad. Not bad at all. All right, so resource, exhaust Nerves of Steel, generate a lightning resource. Synergy for a defense event. So again, so now, like, if we have our friction resistance, this is what we have. Like, we can do our friction resistance, we can do our never back down, ready this up, and then we can use Nerves of Steel after that and play the other one. And then so we've wasted no other cards. So these are basically pure 1-cost cards instead of 2-cost cards. So this Nerves of Steel for me is a very, very powerful card for protection. I love it. Very, very cool. It's going to make those preemptive strikes not as bad. So, because you remember preemptive strike, you have to discard a card to pay for it. Well, now if you have a Nerves of Steel, bang, it pays for itself. So it is a true 1-cost card. So for me, this is a great addition to the protection card pool. And then they add a few more allies. So let's look at the ally we're adding now. It is our friend Warlock, 3-cost ally. 1 thwart, 1 attack. 3 for a 1/1 is pretty vanilla. I won't lie. I don't think it's super strong. Not only in protection, but it does serve a purpose. Action, spend a mental resource, heal up to 2 damage from Warlock. So you can kind of keep him around at the price of a first aid. He's got basically a first aid included, which is kind of cool, you know. But for 3 costs, you know, he's a blocker, he's a 1/1. I don't know. I like him. I don't mind him. I don't know if he's going to go into a lot of my decks. Just because, you know, I don't know. I think there's better allies in protection right now than Warlock. He's not bad. He's not bad. It depends on the deck, you know. As a chump blocker, he's a little bit expensive. But he's basically you can kind of use him as a constant thwarter for 1. You know, he always thwarts for 1. Yay. I think he's not bad. All right, he's not my favorite, but he's okay. But I'm sure there's going to be some new cards coming in at one point, and then he's going to become amazing. You know, like a lot of cards that were bad before, and then Nerves of Steel came out, and I'm like, oh man, this card's amazing now. So again, the more the cards evolve, the more cards are added to the card pool, the more little intricate synergies we can find with specific cards, which I think is just amazing. For me, it's very, very good. All right, so Warlock is not a bad addition. All right, I love multiple man. Oh man, I love multiple man with Wasp. That means you constantly have 3 blockers. You don't even need Wasp protection. Only needs to run multiple man. That's it. And then you just cycle the multiple man, and then just do other stuff here. I think super good. All right, well, we're talking about Quicksilver here, but multiple man, 4-cost ally. Ugh, for another 1/1. Ugh. But he does have an advantage. So he's 4 for a 1/1 is super expensive. But he does have a response. After multiple man enters play, search your deck and hand for a copy of multiple man and put it into play, and then shuffle your deck if it was searched. Oh, okay, so, well, if it was searched this way. Normally, unless you are really, really resource rich, If you have 2 multiple mans in your hand, normally you're only playing that guy if you're an alter ego. But yeah, so multiple man. For 4, go get other multiple mans. If your multiple man is in your discard pile, you cannot go get the guy from your discard pile. So you can only get him from your hand and your deck. So obviously, reading is always key for these cards. Just always don't assume, just read. And then there you go. After he enters play, go get 2. So then you have 3 blockers. So this is very, very cool because then they can all like thwart for 1. The only time I don't really like this card is against if you have the modular set under attack. And then Concussive Blaster, oh, I've used all my guys, and then they only have 1 health. So I like him. If you're pairing up with, I can just see Spider-Woman with the multiple man and the team training. Oh, well, then it's starting to, it's, 3 health, that's pretty good. All right, it's not too bad. 3 allies, 3 health. I think I like it. But multiple man, definitely a really cool addition to the protection allies. Very unique, very thematic as well. Like it a lot. So I really like this guy. Like I said, if you get him early, you haven't mulliganed anything. He's 3 allies for 4 cost. That's exactly what protection wants. A bunch of blockers for your allies, for your friends, for your the other people playing with you. All right, let's look at the other cards that are included in this one. All right, so Order and Chaos. So this again, combos only if you have Scarlet Witch. So Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. So the way it says, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, max once per player, team up. So you see this, you see how this is the way it's worded differently. So that's why it only works. Now, one thing I like about it is it is a cancel effect. I wish it was cancel that card and not just cancel that when reveal. So, all right. So this one is a team up. You need the 2 characters. When a treachery card is revealed from the encounter deck, cancel its when revealed effect, then deal 2 damage to the villain. So kind of like Spider Sense from Spider-Man, it just cancels the when reveal. So not as powerful as Doctor Strange's Protective Ward or Black Widow's, grappling hook. This one, it just cancels the treachery, and you have to have Scarlet Witch. So is it good? It's an okay card, it's a cancel. It's a cancel. Like I said, it can save you if the combination of cards is on the table. So I don't despise it. I think it's pretty good. And then 2 new basic upgrades. And this is why I think his deck is so awesome. Because they gave you 6 upgrades to be able to put down from this. So one is Adrenaline Rush, and the other is Civic Duty. So these 2 cards, they give you +1 thwart and +1 attack. And you can save them. It's not that you have to spend them right away. So you want to build those up because then you want to have those massive turns where you're doing 20 damage in 1 round with Quicksilver. So if you have all 3 Adrenaline Rushes and his upgrade, so that is 5. If you have that maximum velocity, that's 7. And then if you have 3 Always Be Running, 7, 7, 7, that's 21 damage. Normally, you're killing pretty much any villain in solo with 21 damage. So I love the fact that you can, if you're playing aggression, you're definitely going to want to put these 3 in. And if you're playing Justice, putting those 3 in as well is going to be good. Because if you have a thwart of 6 at one point, then it's just, there is no scheme that is going to survive your turns. All right, so again, 2 super cool upgrades that I love for our basic card pool. So a lot of people don't say that it is the 5th aspect, but for me, it is definitely the 5th aspect. All right, let's look at the bad cards that come into the deck. All right, before I finish, let's finish up with some extra cards. One of the things I really like is there is only 5 reprints. So again, the 3 double resources and the 2 armored vests are the only cards reprinted. So I like that because a lot of times there's like there's like 3, 6, the 2 double resources and the 2, 3. So that's already like 5 cards, 6, 7, 8. Often there's like 8 reprints off of a 40 card pack. So it makes me a little sad. But the fact that there's only 5 reprints here and it's only the double resources to make the deck work, I'm like, perfect. And more new cards is best. All right. And then let's look at some of the cards that were included before we go into the bad stuff. So obviously we got 4 extra cards from his kit. So this one, Brute Force and Aggression, another upgrade. I like that. Cost 1. Now your hero gets +1 attack and your basic attack gains piercing. Wow. Okay, so that's really, really good, especially with all the tough minions. And obviously you see Hulk and the first thing you're thinking, you're like, oh, thank God this card exists. Now, I have one little issue with this card. I like it. I wish it was more like on the playstyle of Adrenaline Rush, because it does say Forced Response. After you make a basic attack, discard Brute Force. So if you're thinking about, oh man, I can just play that on Hulk and then I'll save it for when I actually get my Hulk smash. Well, no, because if you're punching in the meantime, this card is going to go away. So again, love the card, but I just wish that the response was there. I wish it would say like discard, just kind of like the other one. Your hero gets +1 attack and piercing for the next attack, and then discard. If it was just worded a little differently, I would be in love. This would be like a 3 of in my Hulk decks, and then in a lot of the aggression decks. But the way it's worded now, I might just I'm not even sure if I am going to run it. But maybe I have to give it a chance again. I haven't played with the card yet. I do need to figure it out if it's going to go into a Hulk aggression deck. Probably, because I have to try it out. But yeah, I think the timing is just you just have to fit the timing right. So I think that's my only issue with this card is trying to figure out the timing and to have the resources to actually play that and then flip down. All right, so that is the aggression card that we're given. We are also given a justice card. Oh man, Sense of Justice. Miss Marvel just got even more OP. Because play under any player's control, 2-cost upgrade, Sense of Justice says, exhaust Sense of Justice and generate a mental resource. And we all know, lay down the laws, for justice, these are all mental heavy requirements to get a bonus effect. So the Sense of Justice just made Justice players extremely happy because again, this is a free resource for every Justice event you play. That is great. It's only like you can only see once per turn, but often once per turn is just enough to make this card super good. So basically that's a helicarrier for a thwart event. Very, very cool. And it's actually a Quinn carrier for, and it's not a Quinn carrier. It's a mental resource, whatever. I digress. But this is actually a super, super important card for the Justice builds. Definitely play this for any player that has some some thwarting events. And even if you're playing the Justice, you're definitely running one of these. I don't know if you're playing it on a lot of other people, depending on the characters you're associated with. Maybe you add 1 or 2 of these. But this is definitely going into every one of my Justice builds from now on. Such a good card. And then the last card we have, it is a leadership card. It is United We Stand, 0-cost event. And that goes into that limited series of cards that says only if you're an Avenger. We had the Running Interference. We had the Muster Courage. So if you're looking at the cost, Muster Courage is 3, only if you're an Avenger. And then Running Interference is 2, only if you're an Avenger. And then, is there an aggression? I forget what the name of the aggression card is. Anyway, so I think 3, 2, I would have to look at my aggression cards. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, Steve. But only if you're an Avenger, and then you deal damage for the number. Okay, and this is Okay, whatever. United we stand. Focus. Man, it's late. I'm sorry. It's a little late. All right, play only if you're an Avenger. 0 cost event. Hero action. So only, again, if you're a hero. Heal 1 damage from up to X friendly characters. So just to be clear, it's not if you're on stage 2 of the villain. All right? So it's a 0 cost, heal 1. And it heals 1. If you're on stage 1, it's you heal 0, you heal 1 ally. If you are on stage 2, you can heal 1 damage from 2 allies, which is not bad. And then if you're on stage 3, it's 0 to heal 1 damage from up to 3. Oh, it's not even allies, it's 3 characters, which means it's any identity or ally in play. So that is actually not too shabby. Again, for 0 cost, to be able to keep your allies alive and just have them do more stuff, it's good. Now, if you're on stage 3, you can't heal 3 from 1 ally. It's actually specific 1 maximum per ally. So is it good? Yes, it is a playable card, and I'm sure it's going to find its place maybe at one of in most of the leadership decks. All right, and then the last one, and I love this. Beat 'em up. And this, any player who's playing Ultron is definitely going to be running 3 of these in their deck. Because Beat 'em up says, 2 cost event, tactic card, hero action, deal 1 damage to the villain and each minion engage with you. And then She-Hulk just says, too easy. That's right. So again, I love that, you know, you're thinking that 1 damage to everything. That's the ground stump in her hero kit. So this is just a little bit less effective ground stump because it's only for the cards in front of you. But still, it's a 2 cost event. You definitely want to play this if you're playing against Ultron with all these drones. Definitely, it's going to be a 2 or 3 of versus an Ultron anything. Anything versus Ultron. This is a card that you know, it clears all of the minions and all the drones in front of you. Very, very good card. Very specific to certain scenarios as well. But I think this is a very, very fun card to add to the basic pool of cards. All right. So that is it for all the good stuff that is bringing in. Now let's talk about the bad stuff. Obligation for Quicksilver, need for speed. All right, so you may flip to alter ego form and choose exhaust Pietro and remove this need for speed from the game. Or you can always flip and decide not to exhaust. And it says, oh, exhaust your identity. Oh yeah, you don't have a choice. This is actually exhausting regardless if you want it or not. So you cannot ready your identity until your next turn ends. Wow. So that is super, super rough. Exhaust your identity. You cannot ready your identity until your next turn ends. Wow. So does that mean, okay, so your next turn. I'm trying to figure this one out. So you go down. So let's say you're already exhausted. You're already exhausted, so you can't. So this means you cannot ready until your next turn ends. Or maybe it's just the end of phase. But do you ready at the end of phase? I'm not too sure about this, guys. I'll inquire with the rule gurus. I think you still ready at the end of the next phase until the next turn ends. Yeah, I think you still get to ready. So at the end of at the end of your next turn. All right, that's okay. So I figured it out. So that's pretty mean. So especially for Pietro, unless you're like, unless you're just stuck in recovery mode. Yeah, being stuck without being able to ready really, really hurts. You know, worst case scenario, you stay in alter ego that turn, that happens. And then whatever, and then you do all these bonus effects in alter ego. But this is very, very hurtful for our friend Pietro. So you definitely want to be able to get rid of that when that comes in and flip to that alter ego. All right, let's look at the bad guy. If you are lucky like me and see your Shadow of the Past almost every game, who's coming in? Avalanche. So Avalanche, he's a minion. He is from the Brotherhood of Mutants. 1 scheme, 2 attack, 4 health. As far as minions go, it's not that bad. But he does have a when reveal, insight 2. So when he comes into play from your shot... oh wait, does he do that when he... When reveal... Oh wait, I'd have to... Let me just read Shadow of the Past for a second here. How is Shadow of the Past worded? Because normally, reveal your set-aside Nemesis minion. There you go. And put it into play, engage with you. All right. So that's what I was wondering. I couldn't remember if it said reveal or just put it into play. But it does say reveal, so he would get reveal. So he comes into play. Devastating. Insight 2. That means you're putting 2 threat on the main scheme. Alright, so when you're playing in solo, 2 threat on the main scheme is huge. Alright, and then when revealed, each player must choose to either take 2 indirect damage or exhaust their identity. So that's each player. So in a 4-player game, he comes in, does 8 damage. That is pretty hardcore for a minion. So he looks pretty easy, but when he comes in, he is devastating. Alright, and then not only that, but he also comes with a side scheme. So extortion of seismic proportion. So again, insight 1, when this card is revealed, place 1 threat on the main scheme. It is a crisis. So you're basically, he's coming in, putting 3 threat on the main scheme. Man, that is super annoying because most of the time, if you're playing in solo, that threshold is so low that getting 3 threat right off the bat kills. It can often just wreck you. Not only that, but then you have to deal with a crisis icon. So that is even more devastating because then you have to focus on that. It's only 2 per player. That's the only good thing about it. 2 per player is pretty sensible and pretty easy to get rid of. But oh my gosh, the fact that you have to deal with a crisis and then deal with the main scheme that just accelerated a ton, that is brutal. So very good thematic wise, way to mess them up. I really like. And then 2 cards that come into play. And I love that they have a really cool boost on them that really fits against what Quicksilver wants to do. Earthquakes. So this is a treachery. Again, insight 1. Adding more threat. So when these cards get revealed, super annoying. Discard 2 cards, and you don't have a choice. It's discard 2 cards from your hand, exhaust your identity. So that is very. Not only does it punish you if you're like, oh man, I had such a good hand. Discarding 2 cards from any player's hand is just brutal. Not only that, but if it's a boost icon, it does have the star. It doesn't have any pips on it, but it does say, when it comes out as a boost, spend 2 physicals or exhaust your identity. Oh, man. So if you're playing characters like Iron Man or Thor that don't have that many physical in their decks, that's just going to hurt so much. So love that about Earthquake. Really, really hurts you. And then the last one is a really cool attachment. Again, vibration resistance. You attach that to Avalanche, but if Avalanche is not there, you attach it to the villain, which is really annoying because it says reduce the damage attached enemy takes from each attack by 1. So that is just going to hurt because then, if you don't deal with it, at least there's a way of getting rid of it. So hero action, exhaust your hero, and discard this card. So again, frustrating for Quicksilver. Good thing he does have ways to go around these things, but still, the fact that you have to exhaust. So one thing that you want to know, guys, is you can still, even if you're stunned, I'll give you a little thing. If you're stunned with Quicksilver, it's not the end of the world. If you're exhausted and stunned, then that sucks. But if you're just if you're stunned, what I definitely recommend is just use your thwart ability, ready up, and then use your basic power to remove your stun. All right, so you can still do stuff. All right, you're not like limited. So that's one way to get around like the effects of the cards. And then exhausting your identity, same thing, you know, either attack or thwart, and then ready up, and then use the ability to get rid of this. So that's about it for our friend. I'm really looking forward to him, to see how I can play them. I really think leadership, super powered hero is going to be super devastating for the villains. Once you play, you know, you use cards like a couple of Moxies, and you flip back and forth, morale boosts, anything that is gonna be like really crank up Quicksilver fast is just gonna be super, super good. So morale boost is a card that I didn't really play before, but in a Quicksilver deck, I am definitely gonna be running at least 2 or 3 of. Same for Moxies. Moxies, I thought, oh man, it's gonna be good only for a few characters. Quicksilver is definitely a character that you want to be running those Moxies with at least 1 or 2 of in the deck, but mostly those morale boosts. They're so good. Anyway, so any type of aspect we're going to be choosing is we're definitely going to be keeping in mind his basic ability to ready. So that is going to be our main focus, and I think is going to be a very strong synergy to go with Quicksilver in all of the aspects. So we're definitely going to look into that when we do our aspect videos, Quicksilver in every aspect. So guys, I hope you guys, this was my breakdown of Quicksilver, how to play him, how to figure him out. And I think I'm going to, if you guys like these types of videos, like this style, and just really focusing on the hero pack instead of all of the aspect cards, which is tons of information, let me know, and then, like I said, I'll continue that. If not, if you guys like the other way around, which is one video with all the aspects and their kit, then I'll just continue doing that. But I'm going to try this one out, see how you guys feel. Please leave those comments at the end of the video. Guys, share, like, subscribe. I'll see you next time, and keep vigilant, because we're going to be doing Pietro with all 5 aspects. Basics, baby. Can't wait. All right, so thanks for watching. Keep on playing Marvel Champions and beat the game.